enjoy this webinar. Thank you for your time on a Sunday to join our webinar. So actually we are a kind of startup. So we are a team of technology enthusiasts who are we are well versed in the modern technology. I myself have more than 14 years of experience in academia and research. My colleague Divya Shri has experience in industry, and we have another partner, Dr. Arjun Shetty, who is a postdoctoral research fellow. He is also from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, who is my colleague. So this is our vision and mission: knowledge and sustainable business solutions development in cutting-edge technologies for a better tomorrow and world, to empower younger generation with state-of-art technology towards sustainable career growth as future technocrats. So this is our vision and mission. So presently, all of you have joined for the certification course on machine learning, and this is the introductory webinar on that. So this particular machine learning course will run for 4 months. We also have plans to conduct crash courses in future. We also have plans of conducting introduction to quantum computing, that's another course, and micro and nano fabrication technologies. Apart from that, we offer career counseling, and we also welcome other companies to transform their transactions into commercial products, biomedical transaction. Also, we offer software testing, manual and automation. Brief introduction about myself. So I am a senior member of IEEE, also a member of IEEE HKN, which is an honor society of IEEE. And this particular honor society is given to the premier institution like Indian Institute of Science. So I'm a life member of that. I have done my doctorate from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in the year 2012. I have rich experience in academy and research. I also worked at BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. Many students have published their papers at international conference, and some of them are present here in this webinar. So that is the connect I have with my students. Also, I have done a lot of sponsored research projects from Government of India and Government of Karnataka. That is brief introduction about myself. So my team member is Dr. Arjun Shetty. He is a postdoctoral fellow at Indian Institute of Science. He specializes in quantum computing, and right now he's in Canada, so everything is online. So he also will be part of our team, and he has 2 years of experience at ScanDisk India. So that is the background of Mr. Arjun Shetty. My another colleague who is also joined this webinar is Mrs. Divya Shri. She has done Masters in Computer Science Engineering, BE and Masters in Computer Science Engineering, and she's a certified AI and deep learning engineer, and she got certification from IIT Roorkee. And she has 4 years of experience, IT professional experience in Mphasis Limited, and has proficiency in tools such as Atom, Jupyter, Numerical Mathematica, IBM quantum computing experience, and she'll be taking all the hands-on sessions for you. So this introductory webinar will tell you what all we'll be doing in our 4-month certification course. So tentatively, the timings have been scheduled on Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday, and this is as per the convenience of the candidates who have enrolled. Taking them into confidence, we'll finalize the timings. As of now, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. is what we have finalized. If you are comfortable with later timings, also fine. So we will be covering introduction to machine learning, types of machine learning systems, end-to-end machine learning project, classification and training models, support vector machine and decision tree, ensemble learning and random forest, dimensionality reduction and unsupervised learning techniques, reinforced learning. And the major part of this course includes hands-on assessment and guided projects. Unless you do hands-on project, you won't get experience in working in machine learning projects, because finally we want you to prosper in your career. So there'll be hands-on sessions on Python programming language, which includes NumPy, Panda, Seaborn, Scikit-learn, Keras, TensorFlow, and other Python packages. Finally, we'll be issuing a course completion certificate. In case you are doing another separate project, we'll be giving you 2 certificates, one for completion of project and one for completion of course. So this is what we'll be doing. What is machine learning? So this is what is my talk about today. So Tom Mitchell is one of the very major authors for this machine learning. So what he is telling is a computer program which is said to learn from experience E, which is a vector, with respect to some class of task T and performance measure P, if its performance at task in T as measured by P improves with experience E. So you will totally get confused with this definition. So I won't confuse you at the start of the webinar right now. So we'll go for a more simpler definition. Machine learning is a field of study that gives the computer the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So this is what author Samuel told in the 1959. So I'll once again go, it is the study that gives the computer ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So way back in 2000s, there was a craze for C programming. So you have to program it, then it will learn. So here the computer must learn without being programmed every time. So that is what is machine learning. So we'll be understanding what it is. Excuse me. The simplest example of machine learning is your spam emails in your Google. So everybody will be using Gmail. That is how you have come to this webinar. You have got invitation through Gmail. Many times it will classify as a spam email and it will go, and it will classify as regular email. Sometimes even your important emails goes to spam folder. Sometimes people would have sent it, you would not have received, they will tell you to check in spam folder. So there is a some kind of inbuilt machine learning program which will tell whether it is a spam email or regular email. So this is what a machine learning program will tell you, whether it is a spam email or a regular email. So this is what I wanted to tell you. So in our everyday applications, we use this spam email and regular email. So another example is, So this we have used the Mathematica, something like MATLAB for you. This is another software known as Mathematica, Wolfram Mathematica. So you just type the word language Spanish, it will convert into Spanish, actual Spanish, and give you. So if you want to convert the word language in Spanish, this is your output in your Mathematica. And if you want to translate your word poetry in Spanish, this is your equivalent word in Mathematica. So this is your machine learning inbuilt package in Mathematica, which is converting this. Another example is, this is a dog. I am just giving an input picture to the Mathematica software. So this it has to identify your machine learning program as a dog, and this particular breed is hound. So that is the output it is giving in Mathematica. This is another command I am giving in Mathematica. This is the data. You have to identify the image. So image identify is one of the command. I have to identify what type of car and the probability of what type of car it is. So that is the input I have given it to the Mathematica program. So image identify, this is the data of the image which has to be identified. I also have to identify what is the car word and what is the probability of that. For example, everybody knows this is an automobile. So that probability is 99.994%. Then what type of car it is? Is it a convertible car? It is a cruiser, it is a coupe, it is a saloon, it is a limousine, it is a station wagon, it is a hatchback, it is a cab. So these are the different probabilities of different types of cars that may exist. So there is a high probability it is either a convertible or a cruiser. So in US, you have all kinds of cars. So even in India, now you have all kinds of cars. So this particular image, it will identify either as a convertible or as a cruiser. So 37% probability it is a convertible, 37% probability it's a cruiser, very less probability it is either a coupe, saloon, limousine, station wagon, or different other types of this one. Hatchback is a very small car like our Santro car. But definitely this is an automobile. Okay. Now, there is a lot of confusion what is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. Nowadays, universities are introducing specialized courses on data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So these are the thrust areas as identified by the government and All India Council of Technical Education. So what we have is a huge what universe known as data science. Why the data science has come is because of the advent of the 3G, 4G, now going to the 5G technology, the amount of data that we handle is quite enormous. So long time back when we got our mobile phones, doing a call was 8 rupees per minute or even higher, 12 to 13 rupees per minute. I'm talking way back in the year 2000. The call rates were extraordinarily higher and many people could not afford it. So having a mobile phone was only very rich people or a very affluent class of people used to have mobile phones. Now almost all Tom, Dick and Harry, right from the watchman right to the CEO of the company has mobile phones that everybody has. Now you are handling lot of data. Almost all the phones that we use are invariably smartphones where you are having a lot of data. So nowadays people are not using computers that much. From desktop we came to laptop, from laptop we have come to mobile. So most of our online browsing related stuff is being done in mobile phones. So the kind of data that you handle in mobile phones is quite enormous. So that is why you are data handling not only mobile phones, everywhere. So the amount of data that you are handling is quite big. So you want to download a movie, you are seeing some kind of small videos in Facebook, whatever it is, you need data. So you have a whole subset known as data set, under which you have artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. This is how the classification goes. So deep learning is little tough and is one of the more tougher challenges in understanding. Then comes machine learning, artificial intelligence, and everything comes under data science. All are interlinked terms, so one cannot exist with others. So once we have to deal with data science, you need to be aware of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and deep learning. So what is artificial intelligence? It is concerned with the design of intelligence in an artificial device. The study of computation makes it possible to perceive, reason, and act. That is what is your artificial intelligence. This definition was given by Mr. Winston in the year 1992. So concerned with the design of intelligence in an artificial device. The study of computation that makes it possible to perceive, reason, and act. That is your artificial intelligence. Just like your human brain, your artificial intelligence should do. Again, machine learning, all are interconnected terms, is a field of study that gives the computer the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So this is what Professor Arthur Samuel told in the year 1959. Deep learning is nothing but artificial neural networks at its core, and an artificial neural network with a deep stack of hidden layers is called as your deep neural network. So this is a multi-layer perceptron model. So this is your general artificial neural networks. How it will have, you will have an input layer, you have hidden layers, you have output layer. So these are the two inputs, X1 and X2. Depending on the weights of the X1 and X2, so there are many hidden layers and you have output layer. So in your deep learning, what happens is you will have many of these hidden layers instead of just one hidden layer. So deep learning is nothing but artificial neural network with many hidden layers, and each hidden layers, this input will carry some kind of weightage. So all this you will learn in detail if you take the course. So this is how your human brain is there. This is an example of a biological neural network. One of the best neural network our God has designed is our natural biological neural network. So you are able to perceive and act and decide. So even at the end of the course, you will think after my presentation, whether it is worth taking the course. You are going to perceive that, you are going to analyze that, you are going to logically think, maybe you will act on that. So that is what your human brain will do. So that is what you want to replicate in your artificial neural network. That's why you are enrolled for this machine learning course. So as I told you, data science is an interdisciplinary field which uses scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems for knowledge extraction and insights from both structured and unstructured data. So this is very important, having structured and unstructured data. So you may be, when you are dealing with the data sciences, you may have both structured data, unstructured data, labeled data, unlabeled data. So data is the primary element for all these areas. When you are dealing with artificial intelligence, machine learning, or deep learning, you have to deal with the data. That is where your data science comes into picture. So when you want to learn this machine learning, you have to be very good in mathematics, or we should have good knowledge of mathematics in order to design our products and implement machine learning algorithms. You need to have at least some basic concepts of mathematical concepts and theories which we'll be using for our implementation of machine learning algorithm. So you need to have some kind of knowledge in statistics, vector algebra. In that, you have scalar and dot products, matrices in machine learning. So statistics is a discipline that concerns with the collection, organization, analysis, and interpretation and presentation of data. So statistics is a discipline that concerns with the collection, organization, analysis, and interpretation of the data. Machine learning models are statistical and probabilistic models that capture patterns in the data through the use of algorithms. So machine learning models are statistical and probabilistic models which capture patterns through the use of algorithms. See, just to give you an example, this is just a scatter plot using Kaggle notebook. Many of you might have heard about stock market prediction, and especially from 1 year, there has been a lot of interest towards this investment in stock market because of the tremendous returns that has been generated in the past 1 year. You may be getting some kind of ads in your Facebook and other social media platforms to enroll for even courses where they will tell you how to predict the market, how to invest in particular stocks and other things. So all these are based on statistical and probabilistic model. You have slightly deviating from the topic, you have something known as a technical analysis and a fundamental analysis in a company. Fundamental analysis is basically their balance sheet and how the company is going to perform and so many things. But technical analysis is very important for a short-term stock prediction, which will take into account moving averages, simple moving averages. You have a lot of more probabilistic models to predict the chart pattern, whether the stock has a probability of going up or down. So you have a bullish pattern or a bearish pattern is what you can predict in a stock market. And all these are probabilistic and statistic based on the data set which is available from the past 6 months, 1 year, and 5 years. So you can predict the stock market. I'll just slightly take one small break, and I will try to show you. Anyway, you can see my screen. So I will just tell you in stock market how this probability comes into picture and how you can implement machine learning models in that. Since it is all money, okay. So I'll just take some example here. So I'll just take some Phenolax Industries. Okay, I'll just tell you how. Okay, now this is a technical analysis known as a very bullish pattern. So all these are chart patterns based on the data set which is fed. So these are all closing and the opening prices of every day and the volume of stock being traded. So you can take a 5-year data, 1-year data, 6 months data, 3 months data, 1 month data, 5-day data, 1-day data. So you have all kinds of data which is being fed. Then you have something known as here. I will just tell you moving average, a simple moving average, complex moving average. See, can you see the moving average? This is known as simple moving average. 5-day, 10-day, 20-day, 50-day, 100-day, 200-day. This is simple moving average. All are statistics. Okay. So you have different types of moving averages. All this comes under statistics. I won't go into details of this. So if you are getting that kind of data set, you can implement machine learning models to predict the stock price. And there are many people already doing that and earning a lot of money. So you can be an entrepreneur only doing this work. So if you learn machine learning and if you are good in stocks, that is a different course altogether. So as I already told you, what is the significance of statistics, vector algebra? I already told you the significance of statistics. Apart from that, we use vector algebra, matrices in machine learning, because all the data can be represented using matrix notation. So what is vector analysis? At least there are 3 ways where the vector comes into picture when we are modeling, which can be dealt in more detail as we go into a hands-on package. Vector as an array of numbers. We can import vector as an array of numbers. Import this is this one. Import numpy as np. This is all the commands. So an array you can import. Vector as an arrow with magnitude and direction. Everybody knows vector has magnitude and direction. It is used to find clusters, Euclidean distance. Vector as an object that obeys addition and scaling. Vector obeys addition and scaling. Example, this is an applicable for very large data set. The sample space needed to be scaled down with all the varieties to be implement the model for generalization. So this is the importance of vector. So I'll be now briefly touching upon types of machine learning systems. So all this you will be learning in detail when you are going through this course. If you enroll for this course, you have what is known as supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning, reinforced learning. So the classification on this is based on the amount and type of supervision they get during training. Then you have batch learning and online learning. Another criteria is to classify the machine learning systems is whether or not system can learn from incrementally from a stream of incoming data. So what is supervised learning? So supervised learning means a small kid of 6 months old is trying to walk for the first time. Her mother or his mother will be constantly supervising it, whether it is learning, it is going to fall down. So it has to be taught learning. So that is something like your supervised learning. Semi-supervised learning, after the kid walks, after some time it will start walking on their own. So the mother need not supervise at every point of time. That is your semi-supervised learning. Then you have what is known as a reinforced learning, where I have to keep on reinforcing the learning models. You have unsupervised learning, where the learning takes place without any supervision. Apart from that, you have batch learning and online learning. You have a continuous stream of incoming data. Then these two kind of learning methods, batch and online learnings, are used to deal with that kind of systems. So you have instance-based learning and model-based learning. The classification of the systems are based on generalizations of the examples from the training data set. The system will be able to generalize from the examples it has never seen before. Okay, now this is very interesting. Machine learning can also be used in medical applications. For example, especially a country like ours, which is a vast country, you have a huge shortage of doctors. Especially we have seen that during your second pandemic, those people who had to get beds and needed oxygen supply could not get it. And those who could not, those who need not be admitted were admitted. So because of that, you had a lot of bed shortage. So for any disease for that matter, so what you do first, whenever we get sick, we don't know what, we first eat some crocin, paracetamol, Dolo 650, all kinds of medicine. If it doesn't work for 1 or 2 days, you go to a doctor. The doctor, based on his experience, if he's an experienced doctor, will try to predict what kind of disease you have, and usually will write some kind of antibiotic treatment will give you, and normally the disease will get over in 3 or 4 days. If not, you are going to a major hospital, the doctor will not predict what kind of disease he'll have, especially in major cities. They will suggest you some kind of blood test to be taken, or some kind of medical pathological investigations which need to be undertaken before the doctor decides what kind of disease you have and what is your exact treatment methodology. So you don't have a standardization. If you go to a village doctor, he will just give you some medicine and send. If you go to a local dispensary, he may give a different treatment. If you go to a major hospital, their treatment methodologies are different. So there's no kind of standardization here for any particular disease. Suppose you have machine learning algorithms, you go to a machine learning or a artificial intelligence system and tell that you have this. So it is going to predict based on its learning what you may have, and it will tell you, please take this test and come back. After that, you come with all the test results. Before giving the actual medication, that system can be remotely transmitted. The data can be remotely transmitted to an expert doctor who is sitting in a major city, and he can guide the patient on what medicine he can take. So that is an example of some kind of semi-supervised learning I'm telling. So this machine learning has applications everywhere. It's going to touch each and every point in our life, whether it is stock market prediction, healthcare delivery system, biomedical systems, even your Google Photos. Okay, let me go further. So first is supervised learning. In the training data, we need to feed the algorithm includes the desired solution. So desired solutions also you feed. These are called as labels, and supervised learning tasks are basically classification problems. Sorry. So some usually regression algorithms are very commonly used for classification problems such as logistic regression. Some of the commonly used supervised learning algorithms are k-nearest neighbor, linear regression, logistic regression, support vector machine, decision tree, and random forest, which will be covered in this course, which I had shown in the beginning slides, and neural networks. So that is part of your supervised learning. So you have to train the data set, and also includes the desired solution, and usually we use regression models, and these are basically classification problems. You classify as spam emails, regular emails. That is a classification problem. So all kinds of classify whether the car is a limousine or a hatchback. That is a classification problem. So all kinds of classification problems comes under supervised learning. Unsupervised learning, the system tries to learn without a teacher. The training data is unlabeled data. So the system will try to learn without a teacher. There is no teacher to teach it. Training data is an unlabeled data. So unsupervised learning algorithms, we use k-means, hierarchical clustering analysis, expectation maximization. So you have some data set here, some kind of features, or this is feature 1 and feature 2. Based on the features, I can do some kind of clustering here. So based on the features the data are presented with, I can do some kind of clustering algorithm. So you there some kind of hierarchical cluster analysis. That's what I was trying to tell you. So in unsupervised learning, you have visualization and dimensionality reduction as two main features. So algorithms perceive the structure, data is organization is understood, and the pattern identification can be done. That is your visualization. In dimensionality reduction, simplify the data without losing too much information. Something like your Hot Wheels. So you have a big automobile, you want to scale it down like a toy car to give it to your kid, which resembles the actual what to say composition of the materials as presented in the main car. So that is your dimensionality reduction without removing any features, without anything. The exact thing should be reproduced at a small scale. So feature extraction. So some of my students who attended my MEMS class, when they were my students, will understand my thing of this dimensionality reduction a little better way. So merge several correlation features to one. Anomaly detection. Remove outliners from a data set before feeding into a learning algorithm. So you in unsupervised learning, I'll just tell you quickly, as it may take a lot of time. I will try to finish this in another 15 minutes. So in unsupervised learning, you have visualization and dimensionality reduction, as I told you. So you have an input as complex and unlabeled, highly unlabeled data. So output is a 2D and 3D representation of the data that can be plotted. So under that, you have principal component analysis, kernel PCA, locally linear embedding, t-distributed stochastic neighbor embedding. These are some of the methods. So I won't go into details of unsupervised learning. So another learning which we went is reinforced learning. The learning system is called an agent, which observes the environment, selects and performs the action, and gets rewards or penalties. It learns by itself through policy to get the most reward over time. Policy defines what action the agent should choose in a given situation, like DeepMind's AlphaGo. Another criteria to classify is batch learning. The system cannot learn incrementally. It must be trained using all available data. It requires a lot of time and computing resources. It is usually done offline. So first you train it offline, then put into production. That is what is batch learning. First the system is trained, first you train it, then launch into production and run without learning anymore. It just uses what it has already learned. Batch learning systems are adaptable to change. This is done by data updating, training a new version from scratch as needed. So in batch learning, you can't do an online learning here. You train a model, put it into production. You want some changes to be done, a new data to be updated, or something has to be done. You take it offline, again train it, again put it online into production. So that is what a batch learning happens. In online learning, the learning, as the name suggests, happens online. The system is trained incrementally by feeding data instances sequentially, either individually or by small groups called mini batches. Learning step is fast and cheap, and system learns about new data on the fly. This is great for system that receives data as continuous flow of data and need to adapt to changes autonomously. Requires limited computing resources since it does not need them once the system has learned about new data instances. Unlike batch learning, it doesn't require that kind of computing resources. It can also be used to train systems on huge data sets which cannot fit in one machine's main memory. The algorithm loads a part of the data, runs a training step on the data, and repeats the process until it has run on all the data. So it can also be used on huge data set. If you cannot fit into one machine's memory, the algorithm loads part of the data to one machine, then runs a training step on that data and repeats the process on the other machine. So okay, so in all these machine learning algorithms, you have something known as the learning rate parameter. So I am teaching you, you are learning. Suppose I am going too fast, you may miss some steps. If I'm going too slow, you will get disinterested and you may not attend. So there are two ways you see this learning rate. So especially students are attending classes. If the faculty is going too slow, it is too boring, and if it's going too fast, you'll miss out, you won't understand. So learning rate is very important. So important parameter which says how fast the system adapts to the changing data. So high learning rate means systems will rapidly adapt to the new data, but also forgets the old data. This is very important. This is in a high learning rate environment, system will rapidly adapt to the new data, but tends to forget the old data. In low learning rate environment, system will learn slowly, but also will be less sensitive to noise in the new data or to the outliners. Okay, so challenges in the online learning. If bad data is fed to the system in case of online learning, that is continuous data feed, you should have some kind of anomaly detection if there is a bad data or there is an error. So either you revert the system to the previous working state, that is one of the solutions if you get a bad data in case of online learning, or monitor the input data and react to the abnormal data. Usually anomaly detection softwares are used. So some of the main challenges when we come to machine learning is insufficient quantity of training data. So if you do not have a proper data set, lot of data is required for most of the machine learning algorithms for proper working. So it is very simple. If I do not train you as a machine learning engineer properly, and I only give you superficial training, that will not serve the purpose, either for the learner or for the output. So for a simple problem, thousands of examples are required for the system to be trained. So the better you train, better will be your machine learning algorithm. For complex problems like images and speech recognition, millions of examples are required unless we are reusing parts of an existing data. So insufficient quantity of training data is one of the main challenges in the machine learning. You should have proper data which is fed so that the machine learning algorithms can learn. Non-representative training data. For generalization, training data should be a representative of the new cases. We want to generalize whether we use instance-based learning or model-based learning. Say, I'll give you an example of this non-representative training data. For example, this machine learning can also be used in your exit poll and opinion polls, which are used for predicting which party is going to win. Okay, so most of you will be tracking your election and politics, which is there in our blood, especially Indians. So what we do is, before the election, so some of the agencies conduct what is known as an opinion poll, which you will see in your various news channels. So for example, a state like Uttar Pradesh is going to polls next year. Okay, whenever it is. It has an around, it may have a voting population of around 10 to 11 crores, if I'm not mistaken, because you have the entire population of UP as 22 crores. The voting population is likely to be 50% of that. Assume it is 10 crores. Suppose you want to take an opinion poll or exit poll and find out which party is going to get how much percentage of vote and what amount of seats they are going to get. So is it possible for any kind of agency to interview each 10 crore people in each constituency and find out whom they are voting for? It is humanly not possible because they are not election commission. They have limited number of human resources. A private agency which is conducting polls for any political parties will also use this kind of data to fine-tune their campaign strategy. See, apart from the news channels, the individual parties will also use this kind of data to fine-tune their strategy. So what this opinion people will do is, they will go to a particular village which represents that particular district, wherein all caste creed are represented. So they have to interview each caste people individually, male, female, young, old, in a proper representative model, to understand what are the issues they are voting for and how it is going to affect the election, and finally going to predict who is going to win the election. This is also a machine learning problem. So this each political party needs this data to fine-tune their strategy. So if you get a non-representative training set, if you only interview one particular village or one particular district in the entire state and tell that represents the entire state, that is wrong, and your model is going to fail. So you have to have what is known as a representative training data. So non-representative is another this one. Then poor quality of data. Then sampling bias. If the sample is too small, we have sampling noise. Again, when you are doing sampling means take from few set of people here, few set of people there, few set of people here, so that it represents the entire state. Again, I'm coming to that election thing. So if you have sampling bias, if I tell that I will not go to that village and take, I will only take from this, that is known as a sampling bias. Apart from that, the sample may be too small. We may have sampling data We can have a very large sample but not be representative. That is also another problem. Then you have what is known as a poor quality of data. Training data is full of errors, outliers, and noise. This system is less likely to perform well since it is hard to detect the underlying patterns. In this case, the data needs to be clean. So you have poor quality of data. In some instances, we have missing a few features, decide whether the attribute to be ignored altogether, ignore instances, fill the missing values, or train one model with the feature with one model without it. So it will be discussed during hands-on training. Then irrelevant features. Systems will be capable of learning if the training data contains enough relevant features and not too many irrelevant features. Then good set of features are required to train the machine learning project to a success. The process of feature engineering has feature selection and feature extraction, which is very important in any training any kind of machine learning algorithm. Selecting the most useful features to train on among the existing features. Selecting the most useful features to train on among the existing features. Feature extraction, combining existing features to produce a more useful one. Creating new features by generating new set of data. Overfitting the training data, that is another problem. Overfitting and underfitting, which will be dealt more in detail as you learn the course. Model performs well on training data but does not generalize well. That is another problem. Complex data such as deep neural networks can detect subtle patterns in the data, but if the training set is noisy or if it is too small, then the model is likely to detect patterns in the noise itself. See, for complex models, you have to go for deep neural networks, which are quite complex in nature on its own. So can detect subtle patterns in the data. So it can detect patterns in the data, but if the training set itself is noisy or the training set is too small, then the model is likely to detect patterns in the noise itself. These patterns will not generalize to the new instances. So that is what I'm trying to tell. If the data set itself is noisy, though your deep neural network is likely to, suppose you use this deep neural network for some kind of pattern identification. One of the examples I can think of is, for example, you need to know where is oil. Oil exploration is a very important thing. You have satellites for that. So the satellites will take images, very high resolution images about oil deposition, or it can also detect images about in defense. If you want to know the enemy troops, then all kinds of images, you have very high resolution images. For that, to classify these images and to find out patterns in the images, we use deep neural networks. But if the image itself is noisy, these patterns will end up identifying noise, not the new instances. Regularization. Constraining a model to make it simpler and to reduce the risk of overfitting. So when the overfitting happens, when the model is too complex relative to the amount and noisiness of the training data. So if the model is too complex relative to the amount and noisiness of the training data. So simplification for the overfitting problem will be simplify the model with fewer parameters, gather more training data, fix data errors, and remove outliers. Hyperparameterization. Already I told you there is something known as a learning rate parameter, and this particular parameter, hyperparameterization, will affect your learning rate parameter. So your learning rate should not be too fast nor too slow. That is what I told you earlier as part of my talk. So amount of regularization applied during learning is controlled by hyperparameter. It is a parameter of a learning algorithm, not of the model. So it will classify your learning rate, parameter, usually set prior to the training, and it remains constant during the training. Tuning hyperparameter is an important part of building a machine learning system. Hyperparameter is set to a very large value, flat model, but less likely to find a good solution. So you have a problem coming as like overfitting, you have underfitting of the data. This problem is something opposite to the overfitting. The model is too simple to learn the underlying structures of the data. So overfitting problem will come if the model is too complex. If the model is too simple to learn from the underlying structure of the data, that is your underfitting problem. Predictions are bound to be inaccurate even on the training examples if you have underfitting problem. So the main options to fix this problem are split the data into two sets: training data set, test data set. Training data set is used to train the model on this set, and test set is test the model on this set. Generalization error. This error is the error rate on new cases. Evaluate the model on the test set. Estimate the error is seen. The value denotes how much model will perform on the instances it has never seen before. So if you are giving a machine learning a data which it has never seen before, how it is going to react, we can find out using generalization error. So you have training error, generalization error. If training error is low and generalized error is high, model is overfitting the training data. Apart from this, many types of model in production do not perform well as expected and produce more errors. This is because generalization error measured multiple times on the test data. The model adapted and those used hyperparameters to produce. Okay. Okay. Fine. Now, as part of this course, you will be learning hands-on packages in Python packages such as NumPy. This package is used for fundamental packaging for scientific computation in Python. Open source package developed and maintained by GitHub, deals with array mathematical functions such as Fourier transform, random number generation, and linear algebra. Then you will also be learning scikit-learn. This is a machine learning library built on NumPy and Matplotlib. It is both open source and commercially usable. It is more known for its predictable data analysis used for classification problems, spam detection, regression, clustering, that is grouping of similar object into set, customer segmentation and experimental research, that is where you have this clustering problem, dimensionality reduction, random variables in a data set to be reduced, model selection, comparison, validation, and parameter tuning for improved accuracy. TensorFlow, it is an open source library for machine learning, usually used for training and interfacing of deep neural network models. Easier model building, trained models can be deployed anywhere. Then you have Keras. It is an interface for TensorFlow library. It is a Python interface for artificial neural networks. As I already told you, so hands-on sessions you also have on Seaborn, and Matplotlib is a numerical extension of NumPy. So what is the best way to learn machine learning? Apart from the many good books available, explore languages such as Python, Julia, Wolfram, Mathematica. Python is one of the most popular languages because of its extensive libraries used in machine learning and very easy to use. It is dynamically typed and does not require compilation. Python code written in .py file is compiled by bytecode, which is a set of low-level set of instructions that can become executed by interpreter. Instead of executing the instruction on the CPU, these bytecodes can be executed on a virtual machine. So that is very important why you are using Python. For wide varieties of topics covered on machine learning and deep learning, participate in Kaggle competitions. Varieties of data sets are available. Make use of forms like Greek Forms, GitHub, Stack Overflow to get help in coding. Whenever machine learning assignment is done, explore the data preparation options, trying out multiple models, sorting the best ones and fine-tune their hyperparameters. That is your learning rate parameter, automating the maximum extent. So these are some of the terminologies used. .py. So I won't go into details of this. So thank you for your patient listening. If you have any questions, I will take it. Before that, I'll just tell you a little bit about our course. So we are a GST registered partnership firm with proper GST number. So those people who enroll for the course will get a GST billing. 18% GST has to be paid for any kind of these kind of online courses. So it is a 4-month duration course. This okay, again I'll go to full screen mode. So this is a 4-month duration course. And weekly 3 classes will be conducted for a duration of 1.5 hours. The course is open and you don't need prior coding experience. Actually, the course fee we thought to be in around 9,000 rupees for the quality we are trying to provide. But as an inaugural batch, we are offering 58% discount, and the course fee is 3,776 inclusive of GST. That is how this comes to 3,776. There is no numerical significance of that value. So already I have told you what all you'll be learning in this 4 months course. Introduction to machine learning and types of machine learning. In more detail, you'll be learning end-to-end machine learning project execution, classification and training models, support vector machine and decision tree algorithms, ensemble learning and random forest, dimensionality reduction, unsupervised learning, reinforced learning. And the best part of the course will have a hands-on assessment and guided projects. Instructor-led sessions will be on Python programming languages, NumPy, Pandas, Scikit-learn, and Seaborn and other Python packages. So you can also do a project. So Divyashree will be taking all your hands-on sessions, who is a certified AI and deep learning engineers from IIT Roorkee, and myself will be there to assist you in the course. So what makes our course very unique is it is not a superficial course. So there will be many agencies and training institutions offering so-called machine learning courses. I don't want to discuss in detail, which are very surface level and superficial level with very less amount of up to 500 rupees to 1,000 rupees. And you have courses from IITs which are really very good, which are around 6 months course, and which are usually charged around 25 to 30,000 rupees minimum. It goes up to 50,000 rupees based on whether it is a live